What is culture? If you were to ask anyone from the social justice community, they'd tell you it centers around race. This is best demonstrated in the concept of what they call cultural appropriation. It's the idea that anybody, namely if that anybody is white, who utilizes the styles and ways of another race is disrespecting their culture. But you don't have to take my white-splained definition of cultural appropriation.
Here's the thing. Cultural appropriation is about a privileged group misrepresenting and disrespecting marginalized cultures. The originators rarely get credit, but always deal with the consequences.
In other words, if an element of another culture other than your own is used in an activity you're doing, you're racist. You see this argument used for a lot of things like Halloween costumes. This argument is well demonstrated by our permanently offended friends at BuzzFeed when they had Native Americans try on Native American Halloween costumes.
There actually feels like there's something pretty disrespectful about wearing a people group as a costume.
Hilariously, in typical fashion of the permanently offended, immediately, and I mean right after this guy says this, they turn around and say it's okay if they do it.
You're not dressing up as a Viking or an ancient Roman. Those people aren't around anymore, and this is still very real to us.
Yeah, I bet the people of Rome and all of Scandinavia would be very surprised to hear that, but dressing up as their ancestors is fine, they're white! See, the argument here is completely flawed. People who dress up as other cultures for Halloween are very rarely doing so for malicious purposes. That's not to say that there are people out there being blatantly racist, but a guy dressing up as a ninja for Halloween isn't doing so to be racist towards Japanese people, nor is the person who is dressing up as an Indian brave, a mariachi, or a cowboy. See, I'm a Texan, and you don't see me getting all worked up. And by the way, BuzzFeed lady, cowboys are still very much around. Katy Perry and Avril Lavigne both used Japanese culture in their art and were summarily lambasted for cultural appropriation and labeled as racist by self-appointed culture police. However, both women were using the aesthetics for either their beauty or their fun. If anything, it was a tribute to those styles for their uniqueness and originality. Attempting to silence people who want to give nods to aspects of these cultures are actually the ones disrespecting the culture. In order for a culture to grow and evolve as cultures naturally do, they must be seen, heard, and even experienced. Now, this can come in many forms, but one of the most popular blendings of cultures happens in music. You often hear race baiters and social justice warriors screaming to the rafters about white rappers such as Iggy Azalea or Macklemore culturally appropriating rap and hip-hop from the black community. However, rap is an art form, and around it has sprung up its own culture. It's art, and art is meant to grow and spread and change. In fact, other cultures from all over the world borrow from black culture and integrate it into their own art, everywhere from China to India. In fact, rap has even changed within the black culture it started in. It began as a voice for the lower class and has now become... The punchline here is that a race may belong to a culture, but that race doesn't own it. For instance, anyone outside the race of the culture's origin can't possibly be a part of their own culture. A white woman born and raised in China would be a racist every time she put traditional Chinese garb on. She might be white, but that culture is a part of her and who she is. Furthermore, a person who moves to a country where the culture is wholly different from his would be a racist every time he stepped outside his front door to interact and take part in it. In Texas, many cultures have come together, including German, Mexican, Native American, to form a melting pot, and from that came Tex-Mex, the world's greatest cuisine. And if that's not the greatest argument against the idea of cultural appropriation, then I just don't know what is. And just like rap, cultures come in all shapes and sizes. There's gaming culture, racing culture, anime culture, comic book culture. Hell, there's even a brony culture. Where the social justice and race obsessed go wrong is that a culture isn't a race. It's an idea held by a collective of people, and ideas cannot belong to a certain level of melanin. Ideas, especially cultural ones, should not be segregated away from the rest of the world. They should be introduced to other cultures where they can melt and create something amazing, just like cultural ideas have since time immemorial. Trying to keep it away from the world is depriving it of growth, appreciation, and advancement. The bottom line? A culture is nothing but a collectively shared method of interests that stems from an idea. So, cultural appropriation, that's not racist. Hell, it's not even real.